right, welcome back. Goodman versus Gottlieb, Monday afternoon. I think Douglas is out in Vegas. Probably already lost some money at the blackjack tables, ready for the Super Bowl week for his radio show. I just got back yesterday from the Kansas-Houston game. Great weekend of college hoops. You know, the games weren't nearly as close as we thought they'd be, but we had Carolina beating Duke. We had Kansas beating Houston. We had Tennessee going into Rupp and beating Kentucky. And then yesterday, we had Purdue going to Madison and beating Wisconsin. 4 top 10 matchups. Let's start down in Chapel Hill, Douglas, shall we? And the red-hot Carolina Tar Heels hold court at home in a game where Armando Bacot told me he chipped 5 teeth going against Kyle Filipowski. He just got him fixed this morning, so he's still going to look sharp. But this was an absolute war, which we expected it to be. Carolina comes out on top after losing that game at Georgia Tech. Do you feel any differently about either of these teams, or are they both Final Four contenders after watching this game?
I think they're both Final Four contenders. I think I feel better about North Carolina because you and I both, when we know Armando Bacot, we've watched Armando Bacot play the 3 years previous, and we've been honest. Like, he hasn't been dominant until Saturday night when he decided, you know what, I'm a big game player, and he was outstanding. And then to do it with chip teeth, that was awesome. And like, look, here's the problem with Duke, right? When you have Young in the game, he's big but kind of immobile, and Bacot's too quick for him. When you have Flip at the 5, you're much, much more efficient offensively, but you can't guard interior play. And credit North Carolina for being able to, all right, however you're guarding us, that's how we're playing. I also thought Carolina did a great job on Tyrese Proctor, who did not seem ready for that level of a game. It wasn't that Elliot Cadeau was great, didn't shoot the ball well, but I thought he led the team. I thought he got the ball where it needed to be. He took shots he needs to take and needs to make if they want to win a national championship. My takeaway was Carolina showed the two things kind of combined in 40 minutes we hadn't seen enough of. Very good defense, which they had been most of the year, and then explosive offensively, which they've been a couple of times. Tennessee game comes to mind. And they've raised their level at times, the level of competition that's impressive. Duke, they still look like they're in progress. I think they're going to get there. I do. I'm bought in. I think they're going to get there. But they got to figure out the Proctor deal, and they got to figure out the rotations, and they got to get something off their bench. You know, do we really think that it would be Carolina's bench and Seth Trimble that would give them the biggest? No, I mean, like, we can chuckle at Seth Trimble, but he gave them a pop. He gave them 10 points out the bench, and Duke got nothing off of their bench. I think those are the factors that's going to change whether or not Duke can win this thing. And I think Carolina, Cadeau's got to keep taking shots when he's open. His offense will take them to the next level. But I was really impressed with Bacot and with their level of intensity, which rose to the level of the game. And I thought Duke didn't quite meet it.
So here was the thing for me on this one. Carolina had been terrific since the loss to Kentucky on a neutral court. But I wanted to see, it had been a lot of average teams. Let's face it. Like Clemson right now doesn't look that great. They've really struggled. They're 3-6 in their last 9 games. There's not a lot of power in the ACC. I wanted to see them come in and step on Duke and show me how tough they really were. Their defense has been fantastic. But again, they had to win a game like this for me to say, like, okay, you know what? I'm going to put them in those top 3 or 4 teams in the country. I think they're able to do it. And RJ Davis did not have a great game. And that's the beauty of this. I was waiting for Bacot to have a game like this and to be able to show he could do that when they need him to. When they need him to, Doug, because, again, they've got enough other dudes. Ingram's been great. Cormac Ryan's been great in his own way, even though he hasn't shot it great this year. Cadeau gives them a different dimension. So I think this game was huge for their confidence because while, again, they had won a lot of games, they hadn't won a game like this, Doug.
Well, this is a really important thing for, I think basketball people realize it, but they maybe don't say it out loud. Harris Ingram's played a lot of college basketball, but he has not played at that level, right? Cormac Ryan has played a lot of college basketball, has not played a game at that level. And what do you mean? Like, there's only one Duke Carolina. That is the best of the best. It's a completely different level of the sport, physicality, skill-wise, all the media hype that goes with it. And for Harrison Ingram especially to play that well in really what's his first major college game. Okay? And I'm not trying to diminish Stanford because Stanford has been among college basketball's elite going back, when I played. Okay? But the fact is that, again, there's not a game that he played at Stanford that equates in any way to that game. And it's not a true snapshot of what the Sweet 16, Elite 8, or Final Four will be, but it is that level of intensity, attention to detail, and physicality. And I thought, to me, that's actually Bacot Racing's level. We knew he had it in him. We just hadn't seen it. And we're trying to figure out, when would we see it, or if he would just be more passive like he's been at times this year. We saw the real Armando, the Final Four 2 years ago, Armando Bacot. But for Harrison Ingram to play that well in that level, when we hadn't seen him in that deep of a swimming pool, to me, really, really impressive for him personally.
You know what was really impressive, Doug? 5 gallon on Saturday. My God, it's
trying to tell you,
best. It is the best.
So let me ask you something, okay? Why? Okay, I have reasons why I think it's the best place. Okay, but as a kind of an outsider,
yep,
right? And you've been everywhere.
Yeah.
Everyone says, my place is the best. Why is Fog the best? I'll give you my own reason to say.
So a couple things. Obviously, tradition and history is one thing, but Duke's got that too. Carolina's got that too. To me, it's the totality. It's the totality of 5 gallon. It's walking up. Now, walking up to Cameron's awesome too from the outside.
Yep.
But once you get in, it's massive. The students are as good as Duke. They're not on top of you in the same way. That's the only way Duke has an advantage, is the Cameron Crazies are right there. They're on top of you at center court. But in totality, the students are elite level at Kansas. They're behind both baskets. But the others, the older crowd, is much better to me at Kansas. Again, it's bigger. It gets louder. And there's something about it, man. Like, it's just something.
Let me help you. Let me help you. Can I help you?
Yeah, help me.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. As a guy who's played there, lost there in a heartbreaker, a great game on a senior night, and I've broadcast there, and I've been there, and I've, first thing that people need to understand, one of the reasons the students aren't closer is because they have the handicap seating right behind one of the baskets.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait, why don't they put them, because if they want to redo the place, they got to get it all up to code, and then it'll look and feel different. So they just decided, hey, we're not going to touch the inside. We'll do the best we can. And it's awesome within the context of they can't really redo it, because if they redo it, they got to change a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah. So everything outside of the actual field house, the building, is redone and nice. Everything inside is just the way it has been for like the last 100 years. I think the windows add to it, right? Yeah. The windows add to it. The fans add to it. They added that red and blue lighting, I don't know, like a decade ago. I think and again, that's the way of getting around. Hey, we don't have to redo it to code. We can keep the way, just add some lights. And then they're always good, right? Yeah. That's the thing. Yeah. They're always good. They're always good. And it's annoying. And yeah, they get some calls and whatever. But how about they won a game where Houston turned the ball over 3 times?
Amazing.
They dominated the game. Houston had 3 turnovers. I mean,
they got off to a great start, Doug. Doug, here's what happened, right? They got off to a great start. They made 9 of their first 10 shots against the best defensive team in the country. So right away, they got their swagger. Harris makes a big 3. Furphy makes a big 3. So they're all feeling it. And going into the game, let's face it, Bill Self said this. Like, this was a big game because our fans were worried. We were worried. You lose this game and, like, all right, what comes next? They lost at West Virginia, at UCF. People are saying, hey, Kansas, are they just an also-ran when it comes to Final Four teams? They needed this one for their psyche. They jumped out on them, and it helped twofold. Number one, you're hearing about Houston's defense, right? Can you score on this team? Right away, they got their confidence. And then defensively, They were really good. That, to me, was an underrated aspect of this game. They were very good forcing Houston into taking some really, really poor shots. And Jamal Shev he struggled in this one, Doug.
Well, I think let me just kind of wrap up the fog thing. Again, then you factor in, you got Naismith's rules, Naismith Drive, right? You got all the other you got all the history.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this really cool building. They're always good. It's crazy loud. Like you said, the people, because it's a state school and it's 45 minutes from Kansas City, you get real fans that drive and show up. Whereas Duke, it is still a private school. It is different. And the adults that come there are coming more for the show. They're not part of the show. So there's the difference. They're both amazing. In terms of the game, I mean, I don't think we can say enough about Furphy and the fact that when you and I saw him in person at the start of the season, we were sitting next to each other. We looked at each other like, this is not going to work, right? They got 4 dudes, right? Terry Morris gets kicked out of the school, and they got 4 dudes. Yeah. But this is the magic of Bill Self, whether it's understanding player development or confidence development. And he's not the same with every guy. There are guys that are super confident that he browbeats them every day because he knows they can take it. There are other guys in which he knows you got to be kind of gentle with them. And so whatever he's done with Furphy, Furphy's been the difference because now you're not 4 on 5. I also think if we're fair to Houston, the Texas game took a lot out of him. It just did. That was a war. It was an unbelievable game. Jamal Shead played as well as he's played as a college basketball player. And
all right, let me interrupt you. Can I interrupt you with one question before we get on to Tennessee, Kentucky?
Go.
Did this game, because it did for me a little bit, did it change my thought, my statement early in the season, which was Kansas can't win 6 straight and win the whole thing? Has that changed for you? Because it kind of
maybe ask yourself,
not completely.
Look, I think the teams at the top are all like our favorite superheroes. Right? They all have a flaw that everybody knows, but it's still really hard to expose them because everybody else has 2 flaws or 3 flaws. Right? Their flaw is they ain't got a bench. Maybe they get Timberlake going by the time you get to the tournament. It's a very, very strong possibility. Maybe not. But I was never in that boat. I don't believe I said that. I did think that it's going to be hard. But again, it's going to be hard for Houston because they're going to have games where they can't throw in the ocean. And it's hard to be physical at times in the NCAA tournament because the officiating is different. So it didn't change for me. I think Furphy's improvement of his confidence and his shot making should change all of our way of looking at camp. Now, we still haven't seen him do it on the road, hostile environment, or in the NCAA tournament in front of 70,000 people. But we haven't seen most teams do that. We haven't seen Purdue win a game in the tournament the last 2 years, right? So if we're being fair, I think that should change your opinion because the guy on the sideline, okay, Bill figures it out. I don't know how he does it, but he figures it out. They develop, they establish roles, they push your confidence, they challenge guys who are overconfident, and, they kick the crap out of kids. Now, look, they're the same team, though, that has struggled with TCU at home, that will probably struggle tonight with K-State on the road. They're not perfect, but I do think this should eliminate some of your fears about not having enough firepower to win 6 in a row.
And it does. And Furphy was really, really good defensively, Doug. That's the other part that surprised me is he did a great job on Sharp in this game. So, yes, I've come around. The key to me was actually Parker Brown made a couple big plays down the stretch. He made a 3, just his 3rd 3 of the season. I talked to Bill Self after the game, and he said that was his first 3 he's made all year. His assistants, Norm and Curtis, looked at me, and they're like, no, it wasn't his first. He's made a couple before. But it was huge. And then they went back to him, and he makes a couple free throws on the next possession. They need that. They need those type of plays from Brown, Elmarco Jackson, and a little Timberlake. Come in, and you know what? You're probably going to get 3 shots a game, and they're going to be all threes. You got to make one of them. Just make one of them to keep the defense honest and not hurt you coming off the bench. All right, still to come. Goodman versus Gottlieb a battle for the Big Ten where Zach Edey and the Boilermakers look to snap the Badgers' 11-game winning streak. We'll discuss next. All right, Tom, now for our big man on campus from over the weekend. And today we give it to Xavier's Quincy Oliveri, one of my favorite kids in the country. Scored a career-high 43 points in the Musketeers' rout over DePaul, Doug. And it came about a week after Xavier lost by 43 to UConn in Hartford. All right, big game yesterday. Well, actually, let's get to the Kentucky game first before we go to Purdue, Wisconsin. Let's wrap up Saturday with Tennessee going to Rupp and delivering another home loss by the Young Cats, who had lost to Florida at home just days prior. So now we've got a Kentucky team that everybody was kissing their you-know-whats, and now everybody's starting to say, what's wrong with Kentucky? Well, we knew what was wrong with Kentucky all along, didn't we? They can't guard anybody, Doug. And now it's rearing their ugly heads of they can't stop a Tennessee team that has struggled to score for I don't know how many years. I know it's a different team with Dalton Connect, but the key here was Zakai Ziegler and Josiah Jordan-James. Ziegler can be one of the best point guards in the country. And this Tennessee team, when he's rolling, they're a completely different group. All right, how worried are you about the Young Cats right now?
Oh, I'm concerned. I'm also concerned because, honestly, you got nothing out of Trey Mitchell, right?
Nothing.
Like, nothing out of Trey Mitchell. And so we can sit here and go like, man, the young guys, Rob Dillingham drops 35, but he can't guard this chair I'm sitting in. You're right. Okay. Like they're terrible defensively, but as expected, freshmen can't guard. Right? They like find a freshman that can really guard. It just shows he's focused on it because he's not scoring. But to get nothing, Anyoso also gave them nothing.
Nothing.
So you have you got veteran big guys, and then like we all got crazy about Big Z, but he ain't ready for that game. So
he didn't even get in the floor, Doug.
No, he didn't. He did not touch the floor. He warm-ups only for Big Z. Which again, for Cal, like it was one of those deals where like, why wouldn't you throw him in the first half to see what it looks like, especially when you're getting nothing out of your bigs. Right. So I'm actually more concerned about the Kentucky vets than I am about the guards, because look, if you have somebody that can protect the rim, if you have guys that can rebound, that are junkyard dogs inside, you can make some mistakes on the perimeter and funnel them all inside and funnel them to mid-range. But that thing was a complete house of cards because they were getting nothing from their bigs and their guards can't guard. And, look, I love Dillingham. I think the role he plays at Kentucky is going to be the same role he plays for the rest of his life in the NBA, or if he ever plays in Europe, whatever. Just come out and just get buckets. But, man, those guys don't guard a soul. They don't guard a soul. And as much as everybody loves Reeves and Shepard. But Shepard struggled defensively, and he played great on offense, very efficient. They couldn't handle Ziegler. Now, if we're fair, Ziegler earlier in the week was awful. So it was like the opposite of Jamal Shed. Bad in the week, great in the weekend. Shed was great in the week, bad in the weekend. But this Tennessee team is different, as you pointed out. Connect makes them different, and when Ziegler's going, like all of a sudden they're a monster offensively. Yeah. I'm concerned about Kentucky. But the difference in my concern with Kentucky is I do think the defensive stuff is fixable. You can't create offense. You can't create shot makers. Again, it's hard to get guys to buy in defensively, but when you're giving up triple digits at home, it's a lot easier than it is to create offense. So I'm not selling all my stock. I'm just a little bit more pessimistic, more because the veterans didn't guard, not because the freshmen didn't guard.
Yeah, and in the post game, I listened to John Calipari, and he said, when we're whole, we're different, meaning DJ Wagner. Last I checked, DJ Wagner was not Zach Edey or Dalton Connect or Hunter Dickinson or any of those guys. He's a nice, solid piece coming off the bench.
Yeah, listen. He's not as good as he was rated, okay? And he's more of a high school AAU in terms, because, the higher level, you got to shoot threes, get to the rim, create shots for others. And he's an old school kind of bucket getter in the mid range and taking to the rack sort of guy. I don't think he's the perfect player. I think he's the third best right now pro prospect in the backcourt on their team. That said, he's going to be as good as anybody in big games. And it gives you a different body and level of physicality.
He's tough, is what you're saying.
And the last thing, Yes. He's tough, and he's a main court dude. That's a game that was made up and down like that, made for him. So I agree that he hasn't been great, but that was a game that was tailor-made to his skill set.
You know who else looks like a main court player? Lance Jones of Purdue. Yeah. Lance Jones coming from SIU. Now, listen, I was kind of like, I don't know, watching him earlier in the year because he takes some crazy shots. But, man, he's been terrific lately, and he was great yesterday. Purdue goes into Madison, tough place to play, ends their 11-game home winning streak, and it's Zach Edey over and over and over. We know that. But he needs some help, and Braden Smith, man, looks like a top 5, top 3 point guard in the country now, and he's got a backcourt mate because Fletcher Loyer was just okay. But Lance Jones, 20 points, was efficient, and to me, he's the X factor, Doug. He has been the X factor this year because he gives them the toughness, the athleticism, and now he's been consistent, and he wants to take the big shots. I like him now. I'm in.
That was a great win. I'm with you in Braden Smith. I'm not with you in the top 3 to 5. Like, we do this stuff. Like, who is he going against? Chucky Hepburn? Who's like 24, but Chucky Hepburn's just okay. Like, can we stop with he plays well against a very average to above average Big Ten guard, doesn't make you a top 5 guard in the country.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Like, again, I'm just trying to be fair here. He's got to go against dudes, and I think he's really good. End of the game, I did think he was fouled when he traveled, but they have to be better against pressure end of games. I think it's really interesting here that you have two teams in Wisconsin and Purdue that have good cores. Purdue's core is better than Wisconsin's core. Right. But here's two teams that went outside in the portal, and A.J. Storr has been the reason Wisconsin's so much better this year because all the rest of the pieces are the same. They just added 20 a game. He wasn't great. I thought Purdue did a great job of being physical, keeping him off his spots. He's a guy that kind of likes to glide around. It doesn't look like he's really working that hard to get his points, and he had to work a lot yesterday. Sure. And then you mentioned Lance Jones, right? They go and get Lance Jones from SIU, and he wasn't scared at all of the moment. Now, part of it is how Wisconsin defends. They make you make shots over the top, and he's not afraid to make shots over the top. So it's a different style of attack. I was really impressed with Purdue. The flaws in them still are there. I'm still concerned if you play a really athletic backcourt. Okay. Sure. And we've seen what happens if you put 3 or 4 big guys, if you have enough depth against the big guy, against Edey inside. I'm actually a little bit encouraged by Wisconsin just because they stood there in the fight. I think Wisconsin's like legit. They're going to hang around. They're not going to beat Purdue at Purdue, but they'll probably win the rest of their games in their schedule. And I think you have one Final Four favorite, and I think you have a Final Four contender in Wisconsin. That was my takeaway from yesterday's game.
All right, one word. Kansas at K-State tonight. Who you taking?
I'm taking K-State. Their 3 in the backcourt are really good. I think KU's got a little hangover from Saturday.
I'm going Kansas in the road with the win. Rock Chalk Jayhawk, sorry.